Hey, Laura J, with the privilege of being in the underground today. And I am working on the real story of Rome, the reality of my existence that I started last year and said I'd get done and didn't. Though I did do multiple manuscripts that I didn't feel I or the world were ready for, and I didn't want it to be captured and locked in as it was. So I waited beyond my personal deadline, and now I'm online in order to get her done. Not because of my timeline now, but because I think the world is actually ready. And I'm actually doing it in tandem with writing some children's stories based on the four core emotions and how our emotions, or the energies in motion that make them up, actually combine to create an internal emotional high rise of awareness, which determines or dictates our level of awareness we're able to look at life and situations through, based on the way that our emotions are combining to create floors based on the emotional guidance system Esther Hicks speaks to through the consciousness of Abraham, which she channels. So, I've been working on these two projects as well as putting together a tutorial piece for my little 8-year-old that I am so excited to get to work with and actually take him through a personalized get to know yourself type program, which once I've created it for him, then I have as a template that I can then either extend in a private session, personalized program that I could put onto Udemy, or I could do it in person. And we could actually create more opportunities where we can come together and have these kind of interactions and conversations. And opportunities to be activated by the things that different characters in our lives bring up, which is why the empowered storytelling method is so exciting and relevant to what comes after the real story of Rome. Like, after you've come into recognizing the significance of your existence and the fact that you are here to do what only you can, like, once you actually step into that, the embodiment of that, the fact that you matter more than you could possibly imagine, and that your ancestors are relying on you and those who might come through you too. So it is time for us to do the best that we can to actually get to know ourselves, and to start young is the best way to do it, because then when other programs are foisted onto us and we're made to adopt programs that are not in our best interest, we have a file that can be called forward to say, hey, I remember learning that I don't actually have to take on board pirates just because they try to board my ship. Auxiliary verbiage doesn't need to lead to an entrapment because I know what that is. Do you know what auxiliary verbiage is yet? Well, if you don't, then join me on Wednesday night, because we're going to talk about the importance of your pronouns usage and your position within your story, because that's all I'm talking about when I'm talking about pronoun agendas. Well, pronoun agendas are an entirely separate issue we're not going to actually go into, because that's going to draw us into the negativity of containment fields that are designed to get us used to calling ourselves as a third person in our own story. So when someone does it in person, we're not so offended because we're kind of used to it. I mean, I have it on my badge, my name banner that I'm using to identify myself in this place. So if he is going to call me she, sure, right? We say to ourselves, that's just makes sense according to our grooming. But if you are grooming someone, it's for a role, which means they're going to play a certain role within the manner role of the manner in question. Manner being the one who owns that which is associated with the place that all who are connected to it are identified as or through, like fiefs and serfs, connecting to the land itself, and then translating to nouns of people possessed by the land, owned by it, identified as it, a derivative of it, a stem, a sprout off of the family tree, a fruit from the loins of the Father who birthed us. Well, it is time for us to see that we are the fruits of the Father inside our own hearts, which is the divine masculine that has a divine feminine in the same heart center that must both be activated simultaneously in order to get the toroidal fields activating and circulating simultaneously, which is exactly how we can raise our energetic fields and frequencies to levels that will actually support and protect us, to levels that new devils do not need to actually corrupt us, because we'll be aware of what to expect, generally speaking. And getting that kind of forewarning to beware before we are aware of what to beware of or be wary of, getting that ahead of time makes hindsight not just 2020, but it helps for us to recognize it as it's occurring, so then we can say, hey, this reminds me of that lesson that I heard that resonates and relates to this that I'm dealing with now. First time, now in the second. So first and second, deal with familiarity. Third person pronouns are people absent and not able to speak for themselves as to why I would be telling her, his, hers. Those pronouns are the ones that would be chose for the one not able to speak for themselves. Theirs, them, those, themselves, his, her, herself, himself. Those are the way in which we are really identifying ourselves as not present or present, present or not. We get to choose. So let us not confuse our presence. Let us not confuse the significance of what it means to be alive, to be where we are, and to have a chance to do what none of us have done before because we're doing it now. That's why we have been called to the table, metaphorically speaking, for there is no table, except for we must be able to see the T for the double entry booking trust system of the debts we have been accruing for the sake of an arcana we didn't know was king, to an empire or kingdom that we got entrapped by simply because we didn't see that auxiliary verbiage was how we became the thing we used to do before then. We were defined as it, by it. Literally. Our verbiage became the noun that defined us. So our verbs became nouns, and suddenly, instead of what we did, now we are defined by it. So it is the noun doing the verb. And if the verb is driving, it is the driver driving. And that is where the status of the verb or of the noun joins up with the verb of driving as the verb that is happening. Well, when you combine a je suis or an être verb, I am, with the verb, then I am a driver, driving, actually then becomes where we are defined by the thing that we did before. Now we're defined by it. And this is the entrapment that is so subtle, or used to be before we shared it between one another so that we could no longer be deceived by it. Simple as, I let you know, you let someone else know, together we know and see through the irony of the iron fist that has been ruling this here fourth dimensional construct of a mental prism that has been like a prism, which is why on Wednesday I'm going to be sharing High Rose Prism. The 6 chess characters and how they relate to the mixed war between the public and private that has been taking place in our lives, using us as the characters who either become nouns or we become renowned for standing for what it means to be real, authentic, peaceful, loving, and part of a movement that calls us to move and to have a special practice that honors all of us, not just some of us. That being all of me instead of just some of me, where the sum of me will be measured by the way that I invest my energy. So having a special act practice will support me in being able to make the best energetic investments of my life force energy that I possibly could, which is exactly what I'm working on. So I look forward to going on this journey with you, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. I do have some rules though. Anybody that shows up, you got to do so before 7:10, otherwise you're cut off and you can't get back in. Unless I see your name and recognize it because you've already been in and you need to come back. But the fact is that it's only going to be possible for those who actually introduce themselves in the beginning with video and audio so that we know who we're dealing with, because we want to know who we're sharing our stories with. And even if it is just in a gallery on a Zoom call, we want to feel safe enough to say that as I'm sharing my story, it's not going to be distracted by someone coming on to do something inappropriate, to steal the attention and steal the show metaphorically, and then cause chaos and ruckus and completely distract things. It's not going to happen on my watch, which is why I want to talk before the show begins to get really taped from a publicly shareable perspective. Because those first 10 minutes, while they will be recorded for accountability purposes, it's also an opportunity for me to not share what is shared at that beginning point. So that's what we're going to be doing on Wednesday night. And I'm really looking forward to coming together because it's been quite a while, a hot minute. I've been moving through a lot of my own processes as I kind of figure out how to bring forward a lot of these creative babies that I've been working on that kind of seemed like maybe they had been miscarried or aborted or shelved. And instead now I'm picking up those aspects of me that I left with the creative babies I left on the shelf back then, in order to put it back together and actually help myself help others by actually doing it instead of just creating programming or outlines that don't get people going through it, which is why tomorrow I'm going to do it with the one that I am sharing it with, who has paid me to be a tutor of English. So I'm looking forward to that, in fact. And I just wanted to say I send you love and have a great day.